never as bad as you thought? It's never as good as you thought? Was it as bad as you thought this time, or?
It never is, but there's a lot of things that we absolutely need to clean up. I guess the encouraging thing is that I feel like a lot of these corrections, I mean, we can correct, but we have to go do it, and we have to be urgent about that. So, it wasn't great, but you got to live and you got to learn and you got to move on.
What are the things you really need to correct?
Well, I'm just like you talk about that first drive with our defense. We had a busted coverage on the third down that they converted for a chunk gain where we should have had a guy all over the check down, and it went for a big hit. We got a guy get cut out of a gap on the big run that they had. So I think just then we had guys dropping balls offensively. We had holding penalties. A lot of that can be attributed to, I think, technique, and also, Monk had a holding penalty where we fanned out to a blitzing safety off the edge, which we should never fan out to. I mean, that's the backs guy, so it put Monk in a bad situation. So I think a lot of the things that we can do, it just starts by everybody owning their responsibility, trusting their rules, because when you don't and you do something that is unexpected, it puts people in bad spots.
Have the actual NFL refs come into practice at all this camp? I feel like by now they've usually been here.
Yeah, they'll be here when we scrimmage versus Seattle.
Is that? Do you feel like your guys, maybe the penalties had nothing to do with that last night, but do you feel like your guys are more aware of that after they have the quote-unquote real officials here?
Possibly. I mean, I think a couple of those, and this goes both ways, are very iffy calls, in my opinion, that don't typically get called in the regular season. And then there are some procedural things that absolutely needed to get called. And there was one even on Amar's long touchdown where I don't think we're in a legal formation. So, that's what the preseason's for, to work out some of the kinks.
Having slept on it, you practice a couple weeks, and then you're not happy with the first practice you get to see. Does that cause you to reevaluate anything about how you're practicing, or are you just talking about that's one sample size and kind of stick with your process?
Yeah, we're going to stick with our process. This is, we feel pretty good about how we've been doing in the past. I think last year, this time, we got a wake-up call versus Denver. So you'd rather have it now than in the regular season, but you got to do something about it too.
Is Zane Anderson okay?
Zane will miss some time, but nothing long term.
Now we saw Colby wouldn't look like he was a pretty good presence against the run. Are you seeing a little bit different player? What he's been?
I thought he was good against the run and the pass. I thought he had a nice night. On one of the passes, he got his hands up in the air, tipped the ball, put some pressure on the quarterback. But I thought he played with good leverage, good hand usage, was able to defeat blocks. So I thought he had a pretty good night.
What did you think of Malik's night, given the circumstances and everything around him?
I thought there was some really good things. I mean, he was put in a couple tough situations, and but I think there's also some things just that we can do a little bit better. So many times, just thinking back through some of the plays that, I mean, he's trying to throw a screen out, and we don't use the right technique on the screen, so a guy's in his lane, he's got to, dart forward for whatever he can get. There's another time he tries to throw a run alert. We don't run the run alert. So, he was put in some pretty tough spots.
Should he, or is it reasonable for him to have stepped up on the strip sack, or is he at his
Yeah,
job.
we busted that protection. So the back shouldn't have been in the way right there. Yeah, I think he knocked off our tackle. I do think there's a timing element. I mean, you're backed up. We're running a 7-step timing concept that we're playing off, where you get to a second hitch. It's usually find your check down. I just think that probably could be a little bit better from his part, but also we've got to clean up the protection. We can't do that in that situation.
Seeing Bo Melton at cornerback for the first time against another opponent, what do you think of his performance last night?
Yeah, the one thing I'm going to tell you about Bo is he's going to compete, and I think that was pretty evident. There was one of the third downs I think we got a little loose and a little soft on, and where we played a zone defense, and they threw a zone beater right into it. But you'd like us to see, we talked about it as a staff of just trying to challenge in that situation. I think it was 3rd and 2, and they hit a little what we call a spot route for like a 8 or 10 yard gain. So, but Bo is always going to compete, and I think he's going to continue to improve the more he plays.
And what'd you like when you got done watching the film?
I like that there's a lot to learn from and improve upon. That's what I like, and I like that it happened in the preseason. So I think it's a good opportunity and a good reminder to everybody that you just don't wake up and roll out of bed and beat teams in this league. I mean, you gotta come with a purpose. You got to get mentally prepared to play the game, and I'm not saying that's why we perform poorly. I'm not saying that, but also you got to trust that the work that you're putting in on a daily basis, when you're out there in the practice field, it's got to translate to the game field. And when you start playing with poor technique, you're probably going to get beat. So I think that's a good lesson for a lot of these, really everybody, in terms of just trusting your training and your technique and being intentional about what you're doing so that it can translate and show up on game day.
Now, what did you think about how Anthony Belton played? Is there any idea or thought about letting him compete a little at guard?
I think there were some good and some things that we absolutely have to clean up, just like many young players. As far as the guard position, that's a possibility, but we want to get them comfortable at tackle first and foremost.
I mean, did you think he was physical in the run game? Was he consistent?
Yeah, there was. I think consistency is one of the things that we got to work on with him. Just being, he flashes the ability, he flashes the talent. I think it's a matter of time. I think he's getting better. There were some great plays out there. He had a knockdown on a Mars long touchdown run. So I think there was certainly some good things, and then there's some things that, like the penalty on Monk, where we fan out to a blitzer that we can't do. So
I think we're down like 4 quote-unquote regular receivers last night. I mean, no Wicks, Reed, Savion, Christian. How do you get the timing of that passing game right for the week 1 if you don't have a lot of reps?
Well, the other guys got to step up and go in there and do what they're coached to do and execute the way they're supposed to execute. And the one thing I will tell you, and I don't want to make this sound like an excuse, but there's not a whole lot of game planning involved week 1. So I think there's things that we can do schematically to help our guys out a little bit. You want to see guys go out there. You're running more simplistic plays, but you want to see them win their one-on-one matchups. And unfortunately, I would say they got the better of us in those situations.
When I saw you use Izzy Abanikanda 4 or 5 times as kick returner, I thought, is that a way to get the ball into this kid's hands and see what he's like?
Yeah, he did a nice job. I thought he did a really nice job in the return game. I thought he was hitting it, and I think that's one of the traits that you need to have is just that fearlessness to when you see daylight, you go, and there was zero hesitation in his play.
Would you rather Bullard focus more at nickel over these next couple weeks, or are you going to have to use him at safety since you're down a couple guys?
I think it's going to be a combination of both, but certainly don't want to get too far away from the nickel position. But yeah, he'll be trained, and he's done a nice job in both regards.
Jordan Morgan played a lot last night, by half the game or wherever it was. What did you think of him and his extended look there?
Yeah, I thought he did a nice job. I thought there was a lot of good things to build upon, and it was a solid performance.
Hey, Matt, Jordan said in the middle of absorbing that sack that he realized, I need to stop fighting this and maybe go down. Obviously, he's also competitive, though, in games like preseason games. Is that kind of the stuff that he's kind of in that gray area of you want him to compete, you don't want him to play as if he's worried about getting hurt, but at the same time, he kind of admitted he needed to be smart.
Yeah, I think that's something that we talked about in terms of going into the game with, just making sure that you try to stay out of harm's way. But when you're out there, it's not like that's at the forefront of your mind. You're out there playing football, and that's what he's trained to do. And unfortunately, sometimes you put yourself in some tough spots, or for whatever reason on that play, they did a good job of disguising. We had a choice route on. Rome broke inside. Wish he would have sat down. Play goes off schedule. You know, he had to move in the pocket a little bit. And it's like, I wish he would have just swung it out there right to the halfback on the wide route, but we didn't. He tried to make an off-schedule play, and unfortunately got hit.
I mean, I ask you another thing about Colby. He was talking to us yesterday. He mentioned just what it meant to him that you guys did that pseudo graduation ceremony for him.
There was no pseudo graduation. That was a graduation ceremony at the highest level. We had Pat Moore come in, one of our scouts, and played. I'm trying to think of the president of Auburn University, Christopher B. Roberts, maybe. He did a hell of a job.
But how cool was that moment, you know, just for him? He had mentioned, you know, he thought about possibly going back, but wanted to stick around.
Yeah, it was very cool. His mother was there for the team meeting, surprise guest. In fact, it was kind of cool too when I left the team meeting, in terms of there were a couple guys that said to me, I was like, that was pretty cool, right? And they're like, yeah, it made them want to go back and get their degree. So hopefully those guys, I don't want to throw the names out there, but hopefully those guys will go back and do it.
Man, you said last night about likely shutting down the starters for the rest of the preseason, but you want to see how the week went. What are the indicators?
I never said that.
They probably wouldn't play this week.
Versus Indy.
Okay. What are the indicators that you're looking for this week to kind of make that decision? What is that thought process?
Yeah, I just want to see improvement out there on the practice field. I want to see how we compete against one another, and the work that we put in. If we feel good about it, then potentially not. But if we don't feel great about it, then and we feel like we need the work, then we'll go do that.
So are you saying that there's a chance for Seattle?
There's always. Oh, Seattle? The plan going into this thing was play them week 1, practice week 2, and then week 3, practice and play. So that was our plan.
Was it your plan for your Pro Bowl running back to play one snap that didn't count? Or what were you thinking with Josh? Did you need to get him more work, or you know what he is, you don't need to risk him?
Well, then he played 2 snaps.
It's only one in the game book.
Yeah, there was a offsides penalty, and then he played 1 snap. You said it didn't count.
Okay. So that was enough?
That was enough. I think we've all seen the type of player he is. He's going to have plenty of opportunities throughout the course of the season to get battered and bruised. So I just feel like sometimes you make decisions that are in the best interest of your football team, and we felt like that was in the best interest of our team.
2 more, please.
Was the number of snaps you gave Golden a reflection of how good you feel about how he knows the offense? And again, didn't play a ton for a rookie. Is that a reflection of how well he's kind of gotten ready?
Yeah, I think he's done a nice job. I think he and again, there's a lot that he needs to learn. I think just in terms of the detail of being able to execute each route versus every look that could be presented against him. But we feel pretty good about where he's at, and I think he's only going to get better and better and better.
Along those lines, what was the thinking about having Isaiah Simmons play, 36 snaps?
Well, he's got to go out there and do it within our defense for us to feel confident to put him out there and be a key contributor to our defense. So I thought that he got some good work in yesterday.